Hey everybody, Eric again. Today I'm going to give you a quick and simple way, the best method I could see how to remove the rack and pinion from a 1986 Toyota Supra. These cars have a slightly different steering rack in them than later models did. Some of the bracketry is different. So I want to go through you real quick how to do it. And it's all laying here in the floor to make it nice and easy to see. First thing you're going to do when you move your rack is center your steering column, okay? Go ahead and get it centered as close as you can. Next step will be to remove this cover. It's nothing more than a cover that covers your steering, collapsible steering shaft with 2 bolts, okay? There we are, 2 little tiny bolts, 10mm wrench. Next thing will be to do is to remove this shaft. All right, start by removing, there's a pinch bolt in this end that's attached to the U-joint coming through your firewall. Now we remove the pinch bolt on this end. Completely take both pinch bolts all the way out. At this point, you should be able to slide the entire shaft this way up into the upper U-joint. You can slide this far enough, it'll allow you to slide off of the rack and pinion. You understand? You may need to take, while this is, before you try to do it, just try to spray a little penetrating here down into these splines, but it really shouldn't be any problem lifting it off. And then later, if you want to move the tool, you can just pull this out of the upper U-joint. It's got a key here, so you can only put it in one way. You can't mess it up. And I'll show you in just a minute how to realign all this when you're done. All right? Now, removing the rack and pinion itself. Obviously, you need to remove the cotter pin, the 2 castle nuts, and get the tie rod end loose from your spindles. And the next thing you will have to do is to remove the pressure line. This line, this banjo bolt, fits either a 22mm, okay, or a 7/8. Either one. They both work, okay? They both fit this bolt, all right? The best way to get that off, I found, was just a 1/2-inch breaker bar, a single, no extension, just the breaker bar with the socket, and you can reach in an angle belt like this right here, and you can just get enough room on it, pushing some of your other hoses out of the way, and you can break it free. Once you break it free, it's going to come out real easy. No problem. Just make sure and keep track of your sealing washers that you have for this, okay? These are very important. Don't lose those. Some people will tell you have to replace them. I'm going to tell you, this nut is on there very tight, and you need to put it back on very tight, all right? So now, also, like I said before, you probably already had this hose disconnected. So once you have the pressure line loose, both tie rods loose, now all you have to do is remove the bracketry. Now this car, like I said, is different from later models. This has what we call a steering damper on it. Later cars do not have this piece. You have to remove this side just to get it off of the bracket. Might as well go ahead and remove that bolt too, not have this thing all dangling in your way. Next, both brackets have secondary brackets on them to hold the power steering lines, okay? A 8mm socket fits the small bolt, 10mm fits the other bolt. I took it all apart. That way I could separate the 2 lines, let them just dangle and not have so much interference pulling the rack out of the car. And I could also clean up all these rubbers and all the gunking off my lines and everything. The other bracket has the same type of secondary bracket that holds the same 2 lines. You literally have to remove this bracket just to be able to get your socket down here to get this bolt out. So we got 2 bolts from the top here, both 17mm sockets. same 2 bolts here. This one comes from the top, this one comes from the bottom. All right. Now, to get this bracket loose, once you get the 2 bolts out, this comes right off, no problem. This one, not so easy. All right. First of all, you have a tab in the back. There's a slot that this tab has to be engaged in. So to be able to disengage it, you have to move the rack this way, at least a little bit, right? Okay. So once you've moved it back, then you can lift it up. But you have to lift it, start twisting, and come out this direction. Sometimes I do it quick, sometimes I don't. There it is, okay? This is not going to go that way. It's not going to happen. So make sure, when you say, people say they can change this bushing in the car. I think that's going to be very difficult, because getting this bracket loose, I removed the whole bracket with the whole rack and pinion with the bracket in place. This problem, this side, getting this bushing out with the rack in place, is the automatic transmission. There are 2 cooler lines running right here. So you have very little access to lift this rack up at all. You can barely squeeze it out when you pull the whole thing out. And I think this one's going to be tough to do in the car as well. So let's go over one more thing, which is the centering of this rack. These early racks are a quicker ratio than the later racks. I believe it's a 2 3/4 inch. 2 3/4 turn lock to lock. So what you'll notice here, I put a mark on the housing, remove the rubber, okay, just temporarily. Remove the housing and put a mark where my center is. The way I determine center is I know that each direction I turn this, it's going to be about 1 and just under a half turns each direction. So once I know that I'm in that center, I mark with this, I mark the shaft. So while I'm reinstalling the rack, if I bump it, all I gotta do is come up and line my marks back up. Once you have the rack all reinstalled and bolted down, you're gonna come up and put this, slide the top half of this shaft back into your upper U-joint, and then you will be able to realign the lower shaft back in, and your steering wheel should all be straight. Okay, a couple other things that I've ran into on my early racks that I think a lot of other people face this problem. One is this boot. I ordered this part number from Move MK3 does not fit my car. It looks very similar, but the actual opening is too big. It's too big. It doesn't fit. So don't remember the part number I bought. I bought an empty part. I don't remember the part number right now hand, but I bought an empty that fit with the correct inner diameter. So be careful with this. Another problem I got was another supposedly part that's supposed to fit for tie rod ends. This is a MK3 Supra. That's the part number. Here's what you get. You get a tie rod that's literally about ½ an inch too short, at least. So it's not going to engage near enough threads. And also, this taper is not correct. It does not fit the taper in our spindles. So don't buy those. The other thing you'll see on our car that obviously looks very different from the later model cars is this portion of the rack, the passenger side. It has basically a boot with 2 large openings on it. It has this bracket for the steering damper, and it has a secondary boot right here. Lord knows we ever find one of these if we ever need it. Mine's not in great shape, and I dread the day if it ever breaks, because Lord knows if I'll ever find one. So, anyway, guys, that's pretty much the system. If you have any questions, please write in the comments. I hope you appreciated the video. Get to see an early model Supra. And thank you for watching.